Telegami is a free app that allows you to make a 30-second message. You can download it from the App Store or the Google Play Store. To get started, you can customize your character, change its mood, and choose a background. After customizing, you can adjust and rotate your character by dragging and pinching it on your screen to change its size and swiping it around to rotate it. To create your message, you record your voice or type a message. When you are finished, you can share it via email or social media. However, you must pay $2 if you want to use the text-to-voice converter, as displayed in this message. During the switches in time in Willie's mind, Miller employs many musical themes to show when a character appears. Willie's O theme is flute music, largely related to the fact that his father sold flutes. Other characters have other different themes. For example, when Willie is being fired by Howard, Willie begins to think about the time he could have gone with Ben to Alaska. On page 84, the stage directions before Ben enters states, "Now the music is heard, Ben's music, first distantly, then closer." Also, during some of his changes in time, you can hear the sound of the woman laughing, presumably off stage. Miller said emphasizes Willie's feelings during the time changes in his mind. When Howard fired him, there is nothing around him. The state directions indicate that he is staring off into space as he is going back in time. Also, anything with a negative implication to Willie leaves and enters from the left, and anything that is good to him from the right. An example of this is shown by Ben's entrances from the right, and the woman's the left. Miller uses the lighting to portray the switch in time and the transitions between the past and the present, varying from sudden light shifts, the fading of lights, and blacking out lights. An example of light transitions to indicate time change happens while Biff and Willie are arguing in the bar scene over Biff's mistakes and failures. On page 98, the light is a red glow behind the screen at right. The other side is a past event where Bernard is talking to Linda Lohman about Biff failing math. Miller uses a green light to portray this scene. The lights are faded in the area where the action is dormant so the audience knows which time period is being shown. The lights also give connotations to Willie's feelings during the scenes they are presented in based on their color. The red lights indicate anger, as expressed in the bar, and blue lights indicate depression, as seen when the Lohman family is arguing in their front yard only minutes before Willie kills himself. Colors as well as brightness indicate Willie's emotional status. When the lights suddenly change, time either moves forward or flashes back to an earlier event in Willie's life. As says, the characters that show bad implications for Willie enter and exit from the left, and the characters with good implications come from the right. An example of this would even be Willie departing to the left in his own conversation with Ben when he did not take Ben's offer to go to Alaska with him. As Willie was walking to the left, naturally, Ben was walking to the right. Moving to the left portrays Willie's remorse for not accepting it.
One of the main themes in Death of a Salesman is the conflict between father and son. In his conversations with his brother Ben, Willie reveals that he did not know his father very well. He says, "No, Ben, please tell about Dad. All I remember is a man with a big beard and some kind of high music." Perhaps this is why Willie did not prove a very good father. He had no good role model. Willie tries his best to teach his boys his morals, but he encourages bad traits like cheating, fighting, and stealing. When Biff admits to taking a football from the locker room without the coach's permission, Willie makes excuses for him, saying, "Sure, he's got to practice with the regulation ball, doesn't he? Coach will probably congratulate you on your initiative." This costs him dearly later on when Biff develops a kind of kleptomania that keeps getting him fired. But more importantly, it shows that Willie values confidence over virtue. This ideology likely led to the affair that took away Biff's confidence in his father. After finding out about the affair, Biff feels lied to, and he seeks to spite his father by giving up on his dream. He came back after that and took his University of Virginia sneakers down to the cellar and burned them up in the furnace, recounted Bernard when Billy asked him why Biff had quit. Willie understands that this is what he is doing, but he will not acknowledge Biff's failure has its roots in his bad teachings and inflated pretentious expectations. At his mother's insistence, Biff tries to mend things with his father by seeking out a business deal with one of his former employers, but when he is unsuccessful, his father will not hear it. In his final confrontation with Willie, Biff says, Why am I trying to become what I don't want to be? What am I doing in an office making contemptuous, begging fool of myself, when all I want is out there, waiting for me, the minute I say I know who I am? Why can't I say that, Willie? He is trying to get his father to understand that what he expects from him is unrealistic, and that the qualities he has instilled in him do not ensure the kind of success that Willie expects. His father does not accept it, saying, "I am not a dime a dozen. I am Willie Loman, and you are Biff Loman, you vengeful, spiteful mutt." Biff cries to his father, begging him to accept the truth, and this is enough of a shock to convince him in some regard. But the end to Willie Loman's story is not as happy or grand as he would wish. The conflict between Biff and his father is used to reveal Willie's dreams and expectations. The disparities between what he wishes were reality and what is real are reflected in his relationship with Biff, and his acceptance of this difference, in the end, signals his end as well.
Stemming from the major conflicts in the story is the questionable morality. Throughout the play, the reader is exposed to lies, deceit, stealing, and adultery. However, all the characters try to play off the fantasy that everything is going on okay. One example of this would be on page 30 when Willie says, "Sure, he's got to practice with a regulation ball, doesn't he? Coach will probably congratulate you on your initiative." Rather than reprimand Biff for stealing, he praises him. Willie does this because he's deluded himself into thinking that his family isn't liable for anything, especially himself and Biff. This belief of infallibility ties in with Willie's false sense of being well-liked. Continuing on with the same scene on page 33, Willie says, "Be liked and you will never want." Willie says this and uses this belief to explain to Biff that it's okay for him to do whatever he wants because of his popularity at high school. Willie creates a facade that he does well as a salesman because he is constantly on the road. He even tells Linda on page 38, "You're the best there is, Linda. You're a pal. You know that? On the road I want to grab you sometimes and just kiss the life out of you," when really he's having an affair. Continuing on with Willie's lies, he manages to lie to his own boss Howard about his weekly earnings in the past. She lives down the hall. They're painting. "Now look, Biff, when you grow up you'll understand about these things. You mustn't overemphasize the thing like this." The whole story follows the morality, or lack thereof, of one family, specifically the morality of Willie, by portraying his lies and beliefs about the world.
What are 4 characteristics or traits that you associate with Willie Loman? Did you come up with the same ones as us? And they know me, boys. They know me up and down New England, the finest people. Page 31. This quote helps to show Willie's first major characteristic. Egotistical. He goes on to explain just how much people like him and how they treat him. Later in the story, he explains that he became a salesman because he wanted everyone to know and like him. As he became older, though, people started to forget him, but he couldn't accept that fact. I was thinking of this Chevy, 1928, when I had that red Chevy. That's funny. I could have sworn I was driving that Chevy today. Page 19. This quote highlights the next main characteristic. Delusional. This quote, at the very beginning of the play, is the first time he slips from reality. Throughout the play, he slips back and forth, often confusing the present scene with one from the past. This quite often leads to confusion and anger from both sides. A man who can't handle tools is not a man. You're disgusting. Page 44. Willie says this after Charlie asks him to tell him about the ceiling he put up. But Willie refuses because Charlie is not planning to put a ceiling up. Rudeness is another of Willie's traits. The rudeness often stems from his slipping between memories and reality, although many times he is just plain rude and entitled. For a poor man, he has a large sense of entitlement. He's been trying to kill himself. Page 58. Linda, Willie's wife, tells this to her sons when she is upset with the way they have been treating their father. The final quote shows his last major characteristic. Unhappy. Willie has started to feel worthless because people have been forgetting him and he can't make sales, and therefore can't provide for him and his wife. He also thinks his son Biff hates him. He becomes more desperate after he loses his job and Biff can't find one. Willie decides that if he dies, Biff will get $20,000 in insurance money, so he kills himself. But not just for his son. He does it because he feels like he can't make a difference.
Willie has several different characteristics that are revealed to the reader in Death of a Salesman. One of his underlying characteristics is that he wants to be successful and well-liked, otherwise known as living the American dream. Willie ultimately fails because of his false sense of reality, preventing him from getting a better job, and because he does not have the other qualities necessary to succeed. His false sense of reality becomes a problem when Willie is in Howard's office and he accidentally hits the voice recorder, causing it to play back its recording. The recorded voices mess with Willie's head and cause Willie to panic, making Howard fire him on the spot. Another one of Willie's characteristics is that he lies. Before he gets fired, he lies to Linda about how much money he makes with his sales job, and she has to almost coerce the amount out of him. When Biff comes to Boston, Willie lies about who the woman in the bathroom is until Biff figures out that Willie is having an affair. Willie is heartbroken by Biff's reaction because all Willie wants is to be loved by Biff and for him to succeed. Willie comes to the realization that Biff loves him during one of their arguments. Biff confronts Willie and the rest of the family about lying and being unsuccessful, but mainly points out about how he is nothing and so is Willie. He even confronts Willie about the rubber pipe, to which Willie denies even knowing about. After the heat of the argument, Biff cries and leans on Willie. At first, Willie cannot understand why Biff is crying on him, but then he finally realizes that Biff has always loved him.